So our fourth and final tip about heavy lifting or working with a client who has pelvic floor dysfunction towards heavy lifting is to reduce the impact. But by reducing impact, I'm not talking about making an exercise easier. And in the comments of the Facebook post, if you're watching this on Instagram, then just put your hand up in the comments and I'll DM you. But on the comments of the Facebook post, I've got 2 free courses for you, which demonstrate the concept of reducing impact in a client without reducing intensity, okay? Modifying an exercise does not mean make easier. And when you're training someone to heavy lift with pelvic floor dysfunction, if you can keep it just as heavy and just as hard whilst reducing impact on their pelvic floor, you're doing it right. So reducing impact is about understanding which movement and which moment of an exercise there's extra downward or outward pressure, right? So for example, when you jump on landing, your internal organs will accelerate downwards with gravity for a moment after landing. So knowing that when you land, that's when you've got to lift, knowing it's the landing that puts the extra pressure on the pelvic floor, that means you can still train the jump, you can still train the lift, or you can train the pelvic floor lift on landing. So that's a concept that I've demonstrated a couple of times already. And again, on Facebook, I've put 2 links to some previous posts where I've shown you how to think. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, put your hand up in the comments and I'll message it to you separately. But like more broadly, reducing impacts about, so what is the client's pelvic dysfunction? If it's pelvic floor, then you do care about that downward pressure. But if it's a diastasis or a back issue, you might care about prone positions and what position her torso is in. And then understanding how gravity and momentum and the points of each exercise where momentum and gravity are pushing the hardest for that client specific dysfunctions. So obviously this tip is going to require, again, asking your client about their symptoms, understanding various dysfunctions and what that means for the woman you're training. And then in any jumping exercise, and then you can prepare your exercises for that client or modify them accordingly without necessarily making it easier. So for jumping exercises, some examples. We know it's the momentum of the organs down on the pelvic floor. It's almost always on landing or catching. So how do we make bounding, jumping, skipping less impact by maintaining intensity? Some ideas are jumping up onto a box rather than bounding on the flat. You can lower the box as well, so that obviously makes it easier, so you go faster if you want to maintain intensity, sprinting uphill rather than sprinting on the flat. Reducing a weight of a wall ball, because it's that catch and that downward landing of the ball that puts the bouncy downward momentum pressure on the pelvic floor. So you might keep the weight the same and slam it into the floor instead of the wall, or reduce the weight and go faster. If you've got more ideas, I'll take them. But yeah, reducing impact, it's a bigger concept. It'll take a little bit of study, but I have faith that all you guys are motivated and want to keep your female clients lifting. Any questions, direct message me. If you want those links, if you're watching on Instagram, just put your hand up and I'll see you next week.